We all trust that, and you'll accept this fragrant point of view. You see, a person's life is written in the words that he paid for. You know that costs us something that's to do. Forget all you see and hear in the so-called perfect town. Embrace this life and how you live and what you do. Yeah, treat everybody with the peace you have inside. Do unto others like the good book says to do. Now I had to find several reasons to trust this. So many times I've heard the same lines through and through. You see, you walk down the road many times so blindly. Only thing that matters is the path you choose. A simple man would have got busted. The righteous man would have been accused. Looking down this road forever after. We all got something to lose. Mr. Lucky, a straight of flush or a pair of twos. It really don't matter what I get dealt for this hand, this time. It doesn't really matter if I win or if I lose. Save your opinions for some other time. Didn't really write this song to amuse. Thinking about your life and what you really after. Don't hide yourself behind another excuse. A rich man would have got just what he paid for. The poor would sing a song or two. We're looking down this road forever after. We all got something to lose.
Okay, good evening, Patriots. That was our theme song from Steve Harvey, Something to Lose. And I guess over the weekend we saw some truth tellers having something to lose, at least a few days in jail. Want to welcome everybody. Truth Bomb is at the door checking IDs. So it's good to have him back. We want to talk about Shadowgate tonight, and I've dragged Lady Justice in here kicking and screaming because I didn't want to be all by myself. So Come in and say hi.
Hello. How's everyone this evening?
How are you doing?
I am just lovely. How about yourself?
Oh, it's another Monday. You know, when I heard the DNC was going to start their clown show at 9 o'clock, I thought we got to do
Oh
something.
gosh.
So,
Yeah. What a
so
joke. What
yeah,
a joke that is. Don't even get me started.
yeah, I know. And I think Big Mike's on tonight, so we'll take a little steam out of that. Sorry.
I mean, if anyone feels the need to break away from here to go watch Big Mike, don't bother coming back.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Sorry.
and
It's
that
one
I,
of those days,
and I
It's one of
just
those days.
yeah, and I just saw an article where she taped that, I guess, a week ago before Biden named Kamala Harris as his VP. So she won't be praising the VP pick. I guess it'll be all about creepy Uncle Joe.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah. Somebody.
Would love to hear their insight.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Well, I think we'll start off with the Shadowgate.
Okay.
I'll,
Well,
I'll,
I'm trying to reboot right now. Seems that I started hanging around with you. I've got all kinds of problems all the time. So my laptop froze up. I can't see the chat right now. So I definitely want to get that in
okay.
order. But please, by all means, let's hear about Shadowgate.
Okay. Well, if everybody remembers who saw or listened to the last live we had with Tori, and we were talking about that. I know that they were trying to get that together for a couple of weeks, and they were trying to decide whether to do it on the weekend or on Monday or on Friday or whatever, and then they missed their time frame, and then it got into last week, the beginning part of last week. And from what I understand, Millie's internet was acting up, and they were having troubles uploading and rendering and all kinds of things. So finally, they were able to get that uploaded on Friday morning. And I got an email as I was finding out from Tori that it was from Tori actually, and she was sending me the file. It was around the same time, I think, that Millie and her husband were being arrested. So it was pretty hectic on Friday. And then, of course, I think you all know Millie was in over the weekend. I don't know what the GoFundMe account ended up to be. I think it was over over 100,000.
Around 172, I thought, somewhere
Oh
around there.
wow. Okay. I didn't hear where it ended today, but I was checking it periodically. So anyway, I don't know whether they actually physically took the kids. I don't think they did. I think they were staying with maybe Gavin's mother. But it looked like this morning they were going to have the Child Protective Services hearing before they were arraigned, and somehow they got that changed, or they were able to deal with that. Anyway, long story short, Millie got out, Gavin got out. I think Millie's brother too. I'm not sure. There was a third person. It was either Millie's brother or Gavin's brother. But anyway, it seems like this incident that got him arrested was something that happened. I thought April, then I saw June, so I'm not sure. Seems like it's a couple of months. From what I understand, it was an issue where I think it was Millie's mother, but then there seems to be some confusion about that, whether it was her stepmother. But anyway, I believe it was her mother that came in from California. She went into the studio that Millie and her husband have there at her house. She, I don't know, saw some documents or saw some stuff. She started taking pictures. said she was going to use this against him or whatever. And I think they took the phone away from her and maybe broke it or did something to it. And then they bought her a new phone. And so that's what the domestic violence and, or whatever the charges were. I forget what the charges. Hang on. I'll get the charges at least on Friday. Now I didn't hear what happened today in court. I assume they just got arraigned and maybe Millie pled guilty and they set bail and she got bailed out. And I don't even know what her, did anybody hear? I don't even know what her bail was.
I think it was 20,000.
Okay. Wow. That's, okay. That's pretty good. Really. Reality is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, robbery, tampering with evidence, obstructing justice, domestic violence. Now, the interesting part about this is, if this is all accurate information, and I have no reason to believe it isn't, this was done on a grand jury. The indictment was sealed, which then typically they seal it for could be any number of reasons. They may not know where the defendant is. Or, and it seems like in this case, they wanted to time the serving of that with something that, corresponds to what they're doing. It appears as if they wanted to do that while they were uploading the video or before they were uploading the video, because from the video that Millie shot, I think when they were there, they didn't even have the paperwork. So it looked like it was a rush. They sent them out. They probably, somebody must have been monitoring their internet, saw them uploading the video and said, hey, we got to get out there and stop this. And so they just sent the police out there without a warrant or without anything official. And so it looked pretty disorganized to me. But anyway, there's two ways that a local law enforcement, local prosecutor can bring charges. One is a grand jury indictment. They call the grand jury. They present the evidence. In the form of documents, in the form of testimony of witnesses, and then they ask the grand jury to give them an indictment. The grand jury votes on it. They get an indictment. The other way is just the prosecutor on their own brings the charges. In that case, they would have a preliminary hearing before a judge to see if there was enough evidence to go to trial. And if there was, then the judge would determine that and they would go to trial. So anyway, now in federal court, the Supreme Court held, and I forget the case number or the case, who the case involved, but they held that the Constitution says that anything that involves a felony in federal court the charges have to be done through a grand jury indictment. So I think some people got confused initially and thought because it was a grand jury indictment that it was federal, but it wasn't. It was local. So it looks like this prosecutor held on to the indictment until such time that he wanted to serve it. Now I know the feds have done this before, where they will hold on to it and serve it on Friday the 13th, stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I know about that. They got out today. I think I heard Millie say that their trial, or whenever they had to go back to court again, or maybe it was the trial, was, I think she said November 2nd or 3rd or something. So that was pretty interesting. And I will reach out to Tori. I did text Tori a couple times today after Millie got out. But at some point over the next day or two, I will get with Tori, and I'm sure she's going to talk about it on a radio show, and she'll probably do a Twitch or something, and she'll talk about it. But anyway, so that's sort of the background on it. Is that how you understand it, or did you even get that much?
No, I didn't get that far into it, but I am wondering, because I've seen information on, I haven't checked it myself, just haven't had time to do that today, but I saw some information about some of Tori's sites are being down, her website and her.
Yeah, they took her Twitter down last week, I think. Her main Twitter. She's got another one, but they
Oh,
took
okay.
her main Twitter down. The She put the video up on Friday on YouTube. I believe it got 1.3 million views, and then it was taken down Friday night for hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
What a surprise, right?
Right.
And then I did hear today that her site got taken down. Her ToriSays.com site got taken down. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's just for everybody listening. We uploaded it on our site today. So if you go to www.whitehatsreport.com, you can see it. We've embedded it on the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
So
So what do you make of all this?
well, it looks like they found out about this video and they targeted them to try to prevent it from going up. Um, I I've talked about this before about Trump and some other things, and I've always said as long as the mainstream media keeps fighting him and going after him, we know we're in good shape. We know he's on the right side. And this is one of those things where if you're taking the 10,000-foot view, you see that they censored it on YouTube after a while. And you wonder why it took them so long to censor it. And then the Twitter censorship, and I guess there were some other creators on YouTube that put it up that got hit too. I saw some tweets about that. So anyway, that tells you that there's something to it. There's something important to it that they don't want us to see. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I know that there has been a lot of chatter about um, the messengers in regards to this, or the background of Millie, of Tori, of other people involved, their association with Alex Jones, their um, the list goes on and on. I think that there are a lot of opinions out there on the manipulation of information, meaning obviously the video itself, or the documentary itself, was a blatant display of how information is manipulated and used for an agenda on all aspects, on all media platforms, and with the mainstream media, with social media, with your own personal accounts on social media, with the advertising that you see, with absolutely everything that is bombarding you on a daily basis to program the way you think. This was a blatant display of in your face, this is what's happening, America. This is what's happening, world. This is what you're subjected to every day. And whether you think that this is just another manipulation to and you're against Trump, you're against his what he stands for, you're against his campaign, you think he's another one of the deep state players, or whether you're completely for Trump and you're seeing the deep state involved in this manipulation. It doesn't matter what side you're on. The focus should absolutely be that it is a manipulation, period. It is a manipulation which we all, as Americans, with our constitutional rights and what our country is supposed to be based on, should be through the roof pissed off about how this is happening, how this is forming and shaping and molding our children's thoughts, how the influence that this will have and has had on generations before us and generations after us if we don't do something about it. And that's my focus here tonight. That's it. It's not
Yeah,
about anything else.
yeah. And of course they went even deeper than that. They talked about Snowden. They talked about the NSA collection and how that worked, and then the stream to these private contractors who are all former intelligence people. And see, this
Yes.
is yeah, and so that's in my mind. I mean, that's I guess maybe the more serious issue, only because I know that that's how they get information on politicians, and that's how they get information on people, and that gives them the ammunition to use it for blackmail, for intimidation, for whatever. And I think in the video, Tori talked about that. I think Millie asked her, do they have it on Republicans too, if I remember? And Tori said, yeah, they got it on everybody.
Yeah,
And
even Steven is what
yeah,
she said.
yeah, and that's the way they do it. And we've talked about this in our White Hats reports. We've talked about it here, and I think everybody needs to understand that the people that you see in Congress and the people that you see in government are not the people running the show, even though the media tries hard to convince us that that's the case. It's the people in the shadows. It's the Soroses, the Rockefellers, the people like that who are running the show. And these are, sometimes known as the bloodline families, the Illuminati, the Club of Rome, give them whatever name you want to. These are the people that look out 50 and 100 years, and they try to control everything and direct it in a place where their families can stay in power. And that's simply what it's about. We've heard that from so many different people um, that have been involved with the families, that have been involved with those organizations. And that's the goal, that's the agenda. So for us down here on the ground, sometimes we don't see these things coming. We don't see what's happening, but you can look at some of the legislation, like we can look now back on the Patriot Act, and we can see that, enemy combatant, what that means now. At the time, we didn't give it, we didn't give it much thought, because the Twin Towers were still burning. They couldn't get in there and get the steel out to sell it to the Chinese. But anyway, so they put these things in ahead of time, and then at some point in time they pull the string on us. And so the enemy combatant thing was basically put in there to take away the rights of our constitutional rights for US citizens. Nobody batted an eye when we were talking about terrorists from other countries, and yeah, let's take him to Gitmo and let's not charge him, and we can hold him indefinitely, and we don't have to let him have an attorney, and we don't have to tell anybody we have them, and all that stuff, because they don't have any constitutional rights. But the Patriot Act allowed them to declare us an enemy combatant, where uh, all those, draconian, I don't want to call them laws, but all those processes and procedures would take effect, and they basically suspend the Constitution for us if they decide that we are an enemy combatant. So anyway, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I would like to spin that a little bit on a positive note. I'm hoping, that that language in particular in the Patriot Act, along with the executive order that Trump put into play. I'm trying to remember which one it is right now. I've got it saved, but I'm really hoping that we turn the tables, and that language in particular will be used against them. I hope that's that's why we've all been in the long haul here with everything that's happened over the last couple of years, because that enemy combatant language in particular will come in really handy, hopefully here in a couple months, as far as rounding up the the creatures that are still lurking around in the swamp. But yes, and one thing in particular that, as you were speaking, something that came to mind too, because I think that instead of focusing on the players, the big players here, and how they're using this information to to blackmail the political powers that be, that need to stay within their lane and play a certain role here, instead of thinking of on those terms, even though that's very important for us to think about. But this is a sweep of information. This is a sweep of in real time. This is a sweep of information that is happening, that's occurring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with all of our information. This is something that's happening with all of the information out there and how it's funneled, and it's held for, a certain period of time, as you saw in the documentary, and then it's transferred and held onto. And the fact of the matter is, this is dangerous for just the average American person, because those people who, and I was one of them myself at one time, they're the people who are out there who are naive enough to post on your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter or whatever it might be, and you talk about, your daily schedule. You're putting your whole entire life on display. What you had for dinner, what your kids did, where you went for vacation, how many kids you have, where they go to school, if you've registered for them for school or not, when their birthdays are, your celebrations that you're having with your families, your pictures that you put out there on the internet. They have access to this information. They're holding this information, and they can sell that information. And that, to me, is terrifying, because of the fact that they could be selling, for $9.95, they could be selling your information, to a pedophile on when you drop your kids off at school, and and what school they go to, and when their birthday is, and if they have a dog named Scruffy. They have information that can infiltrate your personal life and ruin it. And that is something that, again, we absolutely have to be cognizant of, and pay attention and do something about, in my opinion.
Well, and I know you've heard my stories about how the database, organizations or the database companies started way back in the 90s, and they tried to sell they actually marketed to the PIs and the attorneys first, because they were the ones who would have the most use of it. And now it's expanded to, there's all kinds of places online where you pay 25, 27 bucks and you can get a background on somebody. And the thing of it is, what you have to understand is, everybody, that whatever you put into whatever you put out there, these people, whoever you give your information to, they are selling it. That includes the bank, that includes your credit card people, that includes, whenever you join a website, or you become a member of something online, any of the social medias, they're going to have their terms of service. And how many of you actually read, take 15 or 20 minutes to read the terms of service? And if you did, and you saw these kinds of disclosures, would you stop? Would you not go? Would you not do it? And people, I mean, I get it. People can't resist that. And I've been one of the ones saying, the social media uh, places are problems. They are problems because they're data mining you, and they are selling that information. And that's what ends up on these background reports. It's primarily information that you have submitted to your bank, your credit card company, or another website to become a member, eBay, anything like that. It all goes there. They sell it. They sell your information, and that's how these people get it. And the marketing companies, I mean, that's how, you go online. I mean, how many of you have gone online and looked for a product, looked for vitamins, looked for a TV, looked for clothes, looked for Christmas presents, and of a specific type, and then the next day when you get online again, your email is full of junk mail from uh, you know businesses that happen to sell those very items. I mean, does it not ever occur to you that there's a connection there? So you have to be careful with this kind of stuff. You have to protect yourself as much as you possibly can. If I have to give my date of birth, I give them a date of birth. It may not be mine, but I'll give them one if they want one. They want a phone number, I'll give them a phone number. May not be my phone number, but I'll give them one. So you got to be smart about what you're doing. And, there's so many things I want to say on this subject. One thing that comes to mind too is, if you think they're going to shut down the internet, you're crazy. that rumor every so often goes around, and oh my gosh, the internet's going to go down. And are you kidding me? They need the internet. This is why this is part of the reason that it's been created for our demise, because they are using this against us. I mean, I can still remember the old days when we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones. And man, I'm telling you, because I used to be one of the guys that was doing that, trying to get information on people, you really had to do a lot of work to get the information. Now, all you got to do is get on your computer and a few keystrokes and a credit card number, and you've got information. So I guess I'm just saying be smart about it, because you never know where it's going to go, but it's going to be used against you, very possibly. And those are your worst nightmares. Those are the things that you don't want to happen. So just be cognizant of that. And also, what this does is it separates us. I mean, rather than go see your friends or your family, well, just send them an email, or send them a text, or check them out on Facebook or whatever. And it's creating a division, socially, that really bothers me, because it's a substitute for having those times where you sit down and you break bread, so to speak, and you talk with your family and you talk with your friends. um, so I just want to, and I got to interject this too while we're talking about this, because we looked at the Vegas thing, and at one point in time, there was information floating around that Mary Lou Danley was working for the FBI. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Mary Lou Danley, for those who don't know, was Stephen Paddock's girlfriend. And the interesting thing was, there was a bunch of debunkers, of course, that always come out, oh, no, that's not accurate, blah, 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 blah. Well, the reality of that is that I would say it's 95% certain, if not higher, that Mary Lou Danley is the one that provided that information, either in the form of an application for credit, in the form of an application for a mortgage, for a car, because she had to put her employer down. And that's how they pick that stuff up. So my point is, a lot of the information that is out there, it's the information that you willingly give them. So the next time you have an opportunity to do that, just keep that in mind, that you don't know where this information is going, but there's a good possibility it's going to be sold to one or two or three or four, or who knows how many other places. Okay. Over to you.
Well, I think we covered pretty much everything on that. I mean, we could keep talking about it for days on end, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, when you're looking at this in the big picture, with the manipulation that that we're seeing, with what Tori and I'm sorry, the other guy's escaping my what's his name?
Patrick Berge.
Patrick,
Berge.
yes, Berge. And what their obligations were, or what their assignments were. I mean, in the scheme of things, and what then it's been actually used for, and used against Americans, and against, with agendas that go completely against our Constitution, that go completely against what should be our rights preserved, to ensure that that we can elect the leaders that we feel we want in office, that we can rely on the information that's being that's being reported on, that we can protect our privacies to some extent, depending on how open you are with your information publicly. But if you're limiting that, and you are protecting your privacies, we as Americans need to understand the role we play in making sure that this stops, that we are paying attention to our role in in being complacent and letting this go on for years and years and years. I mean, it's with all of the hearings that we've seen now, we all know when we see, just like the hearing that happened not too long ago. Where was it? With Fuckerberg was out there, and excuse me, sorry, that's my
Uh, uh,
name for him, but
yeah, and Mr.
and
CIA Bezos and those guys.
yes,
Yeah.
and they were testifying. I mean, we all saw through it. I don't know, who in the chat watched that, but I would watch that in a particular chat, lots of people in there, and the tides are changing. People are seeing this. People are aware of this manipulation that we're all under. People are getting to understand it. But we have to take it a step further and do something about it. We have to make sure that that our voices are heard. This is our country. This is our country. These are our elections. They're supposed to be our leaders. They're supposed to be representing our interests. They're supposed to be protecting our rights. And instead, we're all slaves to the game. We are slaves to the game, and we're letting it happen. And this just it's just time for us to take back this country. It's time for us to be proud of who we are as Americans, and what we're willing to do to preserve those rights. And this is a perfect example of how you're all being, the wool's being pulled over our eyes, and we're all being manipulated.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And I think that I do want to just briefly touch on the attacks that Tori and Bergie and Millie were under. I just have three words for that: message over messenger. It really doesn't matter if Millie is connected with Alex Jones. It doesn't matter that Tori got sued for, or threatened to be sued or charged with some charity issue. Those things don't matter, because it's what they're putting out that matters. If it's truth, it doesn't matter who's saying it. And so, one thing that you can watch, though, and one benefit that we do get out of this kind of an exercise is to watch the people who attack them and how they attack them, because that tells you everything about the person that's going on the attack. Because if they bring up things like, well, Tori set this all up to get her arrested so she could put this up on her website and get 1 million views and make a bunch of money. I mean, that's just totally ridiculous. But what it gets you thinking, it gets you distracted from what's on the video, and you start thinking about that. Wow, did Tori really do that? And why would she do that? Or, you're going to start thinking about, well, Millie's connected with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is this, and he's a Mossad agent and blah, 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 blah. And pretty soon you get distracted from what was in the video, and you start thinking about, well, is there some ulterior motive here with Millie, and was this whole thing staged so that this thing would go viral, and so that they'd set up a GoFundMe, and I mean, you got to step back and take a look at this and use common sense and discernment and critical thinking. Because, if you think that Millie would go through all of this to risk losing her children to CPS, or I guess if you don't, if you think that the whole thing was a setup, so now she's got the grand jury involved, she's got the cops involved, she's got the prosecutor involved in this hoax, right? Just to pull this off to make it a hoax. Now, how ridiculous does that sound? So focus on the information. They gave you information. They gave you charts. They gave you websites. They gave you names of people. Go research it. Like I always say, don't take my word for anything. Do your own research. Do your own investigation. This is just like, if you cheat on a test, the answers that you cheat on, you're never going to remember those 5 minutes after you take the test, or 10 or 15 days or 20 days out or 3 months out or 20 years out. You're not going to remember those answers because you cheated. So if people give you the answers to things without you going and researching it and getting the background and going down that road to vet it all, in your mind, because that's what you're going to do. If you go down the road to vet something, you're going to see information that you're going to have to determine, is this important to this or is it not important? And if it's not, you reject it and you go on. And it's an exercise. It exercises your brain, it exercises your common sense. And we all have to do this, okay? We all have to do this because we have been trained and programmed by the talking heads in fake media to just attach ourselves to a media personality that we like. And if we find someone that we like, then everything that they say, we just let them download it into us. And that becomes the truth. That becomes the way things are. And we forget about looking at it from a objective standpoint. We forget about exercising common sense and critical thinking. And this is where we go off. And it's so interesting to watch this, because I sit back and I watch people and what they say and how they address this and all the stuff that comes out, and it just disappoints me that we still haven't developed um, those tools.
I have to agree with that. I mean, that is the that's the stark reality, and it's embarrassing to even admit to it sometimes, because we all get caught up, every single one of us, myself included. It is easy to get caught up in focusing on where the message or where the information came from, and wanting to validate or discredit the person or the messenger, versus listening to just the message itself. And fact of the matter is, I don't personally believe that I don't know Millie. I don't know either one of these gals personally. I know that you have you've had conversations with Tori, and she's been on the lives. I don't see them, or Millie in particular, as a mother. I don't see them or her putting herself in jeopardy as far as her children are concerned. I can't imagine that would be something that she would be willing to risk for a couple $100,000 or whatever. And she didn't know. She had no idea how much that would actually be. I mean, that's such a big risk. And what a game you're playing there. But the fact of the matter is, this information is real. This information, it's not even relevant in the scheme of things. I mean, as a human being, I wish the best for her. I wish the best for her kids. I would not want to see a family ripped apart over this. On the flip side of that, she definitely knew the risk that she was taking by putting herself out there like this. And it's a brave step to take. It's a brave step to take. And Tori too. I mean, she has firsthand knowledge of the information, that is obtained in these operations and these agendas. She has firsthand information on how these things can be used against you and manipulated. And she has a life and children and a family to protect also. So but on the surface, when you're looking at the individuals involved, you really have to take a step back and take it all into consideration, versus just looking at the fact that there was a GoFundMe set up, and she had some major publicity for a documentary. I highly doubt that she would put her children on the line, and risk her family life in order for a couple hundred, not even a couple $100,000 and some publicity on this documentary. I think this documentary would have been, should be on, on Fox News, should be out there on CNN. We should all, I don't care what side you're on. I don't care. It's not even about sides. This is a human issue. This is an American issue right now. This is a manipulation of you as a person, not you as a Democrat, you as a Republican, you as a Trump supporter, you as a I can't even get the
Creep,
words out of my mouth.
creepy Uncle Joe.
I can't get that. It wouldn't come out. I couldn't do it.
I know.
I couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying, though. It doesn't matter where you stand in all of that. This was a blatant, in your face, screw you, America, because what are you going to do about it? You know, operation that's taking advantage of all of us, all of us. And, props to these gals for putting themselves on the line to get the information out there. That's what I have to say about that. It's again not about the information or not about the people. It is about the message, absolutely. So you really have to take a step back and understand that. And there are people, whether they have their own agendas that are separate, or whether it is because they are so stuck in the mud on their views of the world, therefore they can put the pieces together to demonstrate a manipulation that you can or cannot buy into, but the focus is the information itself. That's really it.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, with the information that was put into the video, you all can vet this. You can look up those names. You can look up those companies and see this is the way that
Oh, sorry.
this is the way they do it, because they create these private contractors, and then the government contracts certain tasks with them. And what that does is that relieves the government of the transparency issues that they would have, because that responsibility gets transferred to the private contractors, who are not the government. So therefore, the transparency issues and the certain regulations and everything that goes along with the government, that doesn't transfer to those private contractors. So therefore, they can farm out the dirty work, so to speak, to the private contractors, and they can basically do it and then report back. So I think that you have to understand the way that works. And they've got the information. Watch that again. Watch it twice. Make notes, take notes, and then do your investigation to see where all these people are, because they've been doing this for quite a long time. And I think they talked about Snowden. And Snowden, whether you like Snowden or hate Snowden, Snowden disclosed some things. I have some thoughts about that don't need to be shared because it doesn't really matter. But the stuff that Snowden put out there was real, and it showed how they grab our data and the way they do it. And of course, it's breaking every law in the book. And so if we know about it, that Congress knows about it. And the question you got to ask yourself is, why isn't Congress doing something about this? I know the answer.
Right.
The answer is because they're being blackmailed with the
They're
information.
blackmailed.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
blackmailed with this information that these guys are getting. They're blackmailed at Epstein Island. They're blackmailed at certain things in certain places, for taking payoffs or for cheating on their wife or doing whatever it is that they do. They're all blackmailed. So that's why they don't say anything about this. And I think I said this on part one of 48. Ed Falcone. If you guys are familiar with the White Hats reports and you read those, and you know that Falcone got $400 million stolen from him to put in a trading program so he could get funds to do a humanitarian project in New Orleans after Katrina and Miami after another hurricane, and they stole that money. And he put together 535 flash drives, and he gave them to every single congressman and every single senator. And nothing. Okay? Nothing. So these guys know about it. So you've got to let them know that we know that they know. You've got to hold them accountable. This is the time to do this. Go ahead. I got to stop here.
Well, I will apologize. For my dog. As we know, it's a constant issue, but someone knocked on my door, so apologize for that. I know it's loud. Bark is much worse than his bite. Um, sometimes, sometimes,
Yeah,
but
don't say that. Yeah, don't say easy. Careful.
sometimes that's not the case. But I we really need to understand. I mean, if you're able to just take yourself out of your own personal rat race and really assess, where we're at as a country, where we're at with our system, with our political system, where we're at with everything that is actually playing a role in our personal lives, because it definitely affects us. Every single move we make is actually affected with all of this, because if you really take the time to understand how manipulated our world is, how everything that we believe to be true is not. Everything that we think is how it's set up, what is how how our system is run, how our law enforcement is run, how our schools are run, how our elections are run, how corporations are run, everything. We need to understand that there is at every level there is a form of manipulation, and there's a form of control, and that control has everything to do with these agendas. And so we need to understand that even though you can have faith in what Trump is doing, I personally have faith in what he's trying to accomplish. I personally have faith in his good intentions for our country. But I fully recognize that I play a role in that. I play a role in those goals. I play a role in this end game. I have to play a role. It's my responsibility to play a role, and I take that very seriously. And part of the problem with why we're still stuck in this illusion and this paradigm is because too many people have let control go. Too many people have let that responsibility go. Too many people, put that to the wayside, and want to put their lives in the hands of others. And that's something that we are at a crux here, and you have to realize and recognize and understand that we truly are at a time in our lives where we will have to it has to become drastic for us to be able to get back where we should be in this country, how our founding fathers gave us the foundation and what they had to sacrifice for us to be where we are now. We have to take that back so we can get our rights back. We can preserve what this country was made of. We have to do that.
Yeah, it's imperative. I think that's the where we go one, we go all concept comes into play. And I think also that we in the United States don't recognize that the rest of the world looks to us to lead, because we are the last stand. We are the last hope for the planet. And if we can't get it done, it's not going to get done, and the whole world collapses. So I think that we have to we have to keep that in mind, those of us in the United States, and we've got to get out there and we have to do our fair share of the heavy lifting, because we are back in 1976 or 1776. And I think that we have to understand that, and we have to recognize that. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow, because that's going to create some issues with people, because they're going to have to take action. They're going to have to be willing to risk some things, because we're only talking about our country, we're only talking about our freedoms, and we're only talking about our kids. So if those three things aren't important enough, then I guess we can sit back and take the rest of the year off. I'm not going to. and I don't think too many other people in my circle are going to take that time off either, because this is, I mean, just think about for a minute where we would be if the high priestess of Moloch would have won the election in 2016. Just, just dwell on that. Well, take 10 or 15 seconds to think about what that would be like now.
That is terrifying to even consider taking 10 or 15 seconds to think about that, to be honest with you. That is a terrifying thought. We
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even have the ability to take 10 or 15 seconds to
Yeah.
think of that ourselves, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
who knows?
right. We probably would not even be here right now able to conduct this live stream. We would probably be somewhere else if we were still taking breath.
You would be for sure.
Oh, hush.
You.
So I think we have to recognize that I think we've done well because we got Trump in office, but we've got to keep him in office. So everybody has got to figure out what they can do to preserve this country and the future of their children, because that's what this is all about. And that's what, these disclosures like Shadowgate, this tells us the control. This tells us how they're doing it. And think about the deception that is involved with this on the media's part. Some of you are waiting for the media to tell you that so and so got arrested, or some of you are waiting for the media to tell you that. Really? You think these people are going to tell you? They're only going to tell you if they're forced to tell you. And you brought up a good point. Why isn't this Shadowgate video all over the news? It should be.
That absolutely should be.
And that right there tells you really all you really need to know. So, do we have anything else more to say on that, or do we want to take questions on this or this subject before we move on? Because there's another thing I want to kind of talk about that relates to this too.
We can take questions, but I do want to say this information and understanding this manipulation, even though it's nicely packaged in this documentary and it was well put together. I give props where props are due, and the information that she compiled or they compiled together and put together for this video is great. But this information is out there for you to be able to research yourself. And as a matter of fact, I mean, as you all know, the Vegas shooting is near and dear to my heart, and still is to this day. And Cambridge Analytica has been on my list for quite some time now. And the manipulation that occurred with Cambridge Analytica and the ties from Cambridge Analytica and even ties to the Vegas shooting. So this information is out there if you take the time to look for it yourself and just put the pieces together. So again, aside from the messengers who delivered it to you in this nicely packaged, very easy to understand, comprehend, and blatantly in your face documentary, the information's out there for you to see on your own. So
well, and I'll tee this up for you. There was obviously some information. I mean, this was I think an hour and 20 minutes, I believe, and they probably could have made it 5 hours and probably still not included everything, because this is just sort of scratching the surface. And I think the intent was to get everybody to think about it and to understand the depth and the breadth of the problem. But is there anything that you felt like could have been added, or that you're aware of that could have supplemented the whole thing while we're sort of in this area?
well, I do feel that there could have been more information provided in regards to Robert Mercer and his ties to Cambridge Analytica and Renaissance Technologies, and in what was it, in 2016 2016, or 2015, the information where, his boat was, or his yacht was meeting up with a Russian boat. I can't remember where it was. I have that article saved, but there are ties to, and Robert Mercer's ties to rebel media. There are ties here that I feel, were put into place, to set up the Russian dossier, to set up the fake information, and this Russian dossier and the fake information ties all the way back to Trump in 1997 when he went to Russia. And there are ties there that we won't get into now, but this is to me, in my opinion, and I can only offer my opinion in regards to why I think it was so important. The information is out there for you to see. So based on the facts that I've seen and the timeline that I put together in regards to Cambridge Analytica and Robert Mercer in particular, and this was what, 2 years ago, I think, somewhere around there.
Yep.
The ties to trying to peg Trump and colluding with the Russians. There's a deep-seated agenda there that if revealed, I believe, could change the entire country and the way it's set up. Right. I mean, we could reverse the hands of time back to 57 years ago. And that's a fact. And that's a true and general, and true and genuine fear. And I believe that that's why the Russia collusion was an agenda in the first place.
Okay, well,
But
hold
Robert
that.
Mercer and Cambridge Analytica, very important. And there are ties to the Vegas shooting with Robert Mercer, and his association with certain parties that have always been an interest to me.
Okay, and so just to kind of wrap up here, there are other players involved, and of course, once you start down that Cambridge Analytica road, you're going to get to Breitbart and Bannon and Parscale and some other things too. So it's really an interesting subject to look at. But let's segue now. But I do want to say, just to put icing on the cake here, I think they did a very good job with that documentary. I think they're to be commended for the courage that it took to put that together and to put it out, because you see the results of that got Millie and her husband in some hot water. And so that right there tells you that there is some value to the information that was included in that video. So if you haven't watched it, I would urge you to watch it. Like I say, we have it embedded on our webpage, our homepage on our website, whitehatsreport.com. I know that there's some other websites that have it. It might be on BitChute, and some other places. So I would urge everybody to watch it if you haven't watched it, and if you have watched it, then research the information to vet it and verify it for yourself. And again, I just want to say it's message over messenger always.
And share it with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, with your grocery clerks, whoever.
Yeah.
Share this information. Start speaking out. Start sharing what you know with everyone you know or don't know, but you feel like they need to know.
Yeah, because I think as we go forward here, people are waking up, but they don't know where to go. They don't know what to look at, what to read. And so maybe, if you keep a list of websites or articles that you can point them to, so that they can get going down that road to discovery, to see what's going on. And I think this is a very good place to start, because this gives you a good overview of the data collection process, the data mining process, and the way they do it, and like I say, in the old days, I was talking to somebody this weekend, in the old days when they didn't have the internet or cell phones, I mean, we actually had to do hard work, we used to call it hanging wire, to collect all this information. But now it's all collected for you in in the sense of the internet. So you just have to be able to tap in to that highway, so to speak, that information highway. And once you can, you just pull over the all the information, and then you just use it at your disposal however you wish. And so I think that this technology advances have dangers with them. And so you have to recognize those dangers as they come up, and deal with them accordingly. Because let's say you and I decide we want to start a cell phone company, right? So we start a cell phone company. Guess what? We get information on every single person who signs up for our service. We get all their personal information, and we're also going to be have access to who they call and who calls them. We'll have access to their, if we're selling them data, we'll have access to the websites they go to. We'll have access to their keystrokes. We'll have access to their text messages. We'll have access to all that stuff. So what happens if Mossad comes to us, or the CIA says, "Hey, we'll give you 10 million bucks for on a yearly basis for you to sell us all that information," and it's that easy. I mean, it's that easy now. So I think that's what you have to protect yourselves. And if you have children, my God, you've got to protect them too. If you don't protect yourself, at least protect them, and be mindful of the information that you put out on the internet about your children, and pictures and information. Agree?
I agree. I apologize for my slight delay there. I'm just reading some of the comments in the chat, and I honestly feel that we probably need to address some of these comments in the chat.
Okay, and there's one other thing I want to say. This sort of on this, but it's one of our favorite topics, at least here in the last 6 months. I saw a video where a mother was talking about masks. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't.
Uh,
Well, if I did, it's not ringing a bell currently.
okay, maybe if I tell you what it was about, you've seen it. But she was talking about sending her children to school wearing a mask, and what would happen if they got kidnapped. How would you, and if the kidnapper was wearing a mask, how would you either report that and identify the kidnapper and or her child? Now, of course, it was a longer video, and she went into, you know, various things about that. But the point of the point of it is that, you know, the identity of people out there, and I think we all see that on the nightly news where they're rioting and they're doing all that stuff, and they're all wearing masks, so it's hard to identify the perpetrators. But it's sort of really, I mean, I had not thought about that, but she was concerned for her children. If her children wear masks and somebody takes them, and how would you identify the child? How would somebody identify the children if they were taken? Because you put a picture of her child up there, well, that's not the way her child looked with a mask on.
Right. I didn't
And
see this video, but I've seen conversations about this.
so I just want to segue into the mask thing again. I mean, I know everybody, if they've listened to me once or twice in the last 6 months, they'll know my feeling on the mask, and I know your feeling on the mask too. But there's a lot of considerations on that, and I think that's another one that sometimes we don't think about. It might not be so obvious, but it's still a concern, and it's still a consideration. And I know one of our experts in our Discord chat put in today that you wear a mask, chances of getting bacterial pneumonia go up substantially because you're recycling germs that your lungs exhale, but they get caught in the mask and then you inhale them again. So, whatever benefits that people think they're getting from the mask are far outweighed by the detriment of wearing a mask when you consider your recirculating carbon dioxide, your oxygen level is reduced, and you're recirculating germs from your body's natural ejection system through your lungs. So I think that
Well,
that should be. And thank you, Lori, very much for your support. So go ahead. I know I know you have something to say about that. Right?
well, I do have something. I'm not a medical expert, so I can't refute or give credibility to the additional infections. I've seen nurses talk about this. I've seen doctors talk about this. I've seen the tests that people are showing where they're have their mask off and they test their oxygen level and take their mask off or put their mask on and test their oxygen level. I've seen information about, antibiotic resistant staph infections increasing because of mask usage, the bacterial pneumonia increasing because of mask usage. I have seen it all. I've also seen, the flip side of that where, there's a doctor out there allegedly running 20 miles in a mask and he had no problems at all. And, there's the fact of the matter is they don't publish on the box of these masks. And again, this is another thing where if you want to find out information, instead of just taking, advice or, taking somebody on TV who has a label, or a title assigned to them by a government agency who came out and told you, even though it disputed what they said, weeks prior to that, came out and told you that, it's now in your best interest to wear a mask because it may prevent some of the spread, and that is if you cough or sneeze, okay, or you get too close to people, which, quite honestly, you shouldn't be that close to people anyway. I mean, everyone should be respecting, people's space that they don't know. That's just been my motto for a long time. And that's just common sense to me. But the whole world turned upside down because a few government officials with a label came out and said, wear a mask, when clearly on every mask box of masks that you can buy clearly state that it does not prevent coronavirus. And we're talking about such small particles of a virus, which has been proven. I mean, I'm not assuming anything here. I am only going off of facts that have been presented by, quote, medical professionals. And, it's been proven that these particles are so small that they're going to pass through the mask, even if your saliva particles, that are coming out of your mouth or the particles that are coming out of your nose if you sneeze are much larger than the actual virus particles themselves. They are still going to escape the mask. They're going to come through your mask. All of those things are still going to occur. So the fact of the matter is, is it worth risking your health? Is it worth risking, the ability to identify your child? Is it worth stamping that impression on, young minds or even adult minds where, you go around and it becomes normal to see half of a face on everyone? Is that really worth all of that because you just might happen to block some snot or some saliva, from coming through a mask, but the particles are still free and clear to escape as they see fit. It's by no means, it makes no sense to me that people just fell for that when we have years and years and years and years and years of, medical research that disputes the fact that a mask is effective. How are you falling for that? I don't understand it. And to be honest with you, I am telling anyone in this live that if you wear a mask for 5 minutes to go into a store, if you wear it for, for 5 minutes to go into your post office, to go into your doctor's office, to whatever, you're consenting. You're consenting and you're complying, and you're part of the problem.
Yep.
And that's truly how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to take a stand. You really have to take a stand. This is
You
the time.
have to take a stand. You're damn right. You have to take a stand. If your doctor won't let you into the office, there is a doctor out there that you'll find that will. There are doctors out there. And I think that, the censorship from social media, and the doctors that are out there willing to put themselves on the line to speak, their truth, demonstrate to you that there are doctors out there that, that will not enforce this BS. There are options. So just because it's an inconvenience for you to, to find another doctor or to go to a different grocery store, or someone might look sideways at you because you walk into the store without a mask, so what? Are you that if you're not willing to stand up to that, if you're not willing to take a little heat for, for not having a muzzle on your face, then you don't deserve to have your rights in the first place. You don't deserve to be able to complain about the position you're in now. You just don't deserve it. But the fact is, if you comply, you're consenting and you are part of the problem. And that is the end of the story. Absolute end of the story.
Okay. So, and I agree with everything you just said. I think we have to take a stand. This is when we do have to take that stand. And you'll be surprised how many other people will see you do that and will start thinking about their own position on it. And very well, that's what you want. At least you get other people thinking about it, and maybe they'll start following the example that you set, and that's what you can hope for. But at least you can take care of yourself. You're the only one that you can take care of, unless if you have kids. So don't do it. I just feel like it's not. And I never, from the beginning of this, I knew it was the wrong thing to do. Okay, so we had a conversation last week. Do you want to talk any about that, or do we want to take questions on this subject right now?
I think we should address some of the things that are in the chat, and that might go back to what we opened up the live with, because I do want to make sure that we are communicating effectively and clearly with the people in the chat, the people who are supporting the channel and, support everything that you're trying to do, that I'm trying to do. And there was a lot of talk earlier about, even after we talked about the message versus the messenger, there was a lot of talk about information that has been out there that I know you know about, because we've talked about it in regards to Tori. I don't know as much about Millie, but there has been information out there in regards to Tori and issues that she's had personally in her personal life. And I don't know that we need to get into the personal information itself. I especially when Tori's not here to address that or defend herself.
Right.
But I do want to make sure that we are talking about, first of all, okay, there's a person in the chat that I know, she's been a supporter of yours for a while. And there, comments from her where she is just looking for some direction from you on clarifying the background of Tori, some information that's out there, and really vetting that information, or vetting her personally based on the information that is in the video. Because if you if there's a problem with the messenger, then you can't trust the message. And I'm not going to call this person out by their chat name. I think they know who they are. And I want to just ask a question on the information that is in the video itself. Do you doubt it? Do you doubt that there is such a thing as the shadow net? Do you doubt that there is such a thing as the contracts with these companies and the ability for these companies to access information and manipulate the information that is presented to you as an American or as a human being? Do you doubt that that exists? That's my question to anyone in the chat who wants to discuss that. Anyone at all. Do you doubt that that information and that program exists? Do you doubt that what you see and what you're subjected to on a daily basis is manipulated? Do you think it's factual? Do you think that what you see is unbiased? Do you think that there is no agenda that exists, such as ShadowNet? And yes, I know that this person that and I'm not picking on this person in particular. I just happened to see her comments, and I knew of the information that she pointed out. Paladin, I've brought it to you myself. You were already aware of the information. We know that this information is out there. So I want to make sure that that we acknowledge what's being said. And I don't know if you are able to read the chat or if you've seen some of these comments, but I just feel it's important because what I feel that we need to focus on here, I understand the reservations when you see discrepancies in the background of people, and especially when those discrepancies come from that person themselves, when they make claims that you can't verify or that seem to be unverifiable or maybe conflict with previous information that was put out there. I completely understand that hang up, and I'm sure you do too, right? Yep. I mean, that is something that we are aware of, or that we can understand or relate to. But to me, what the video or the documentary itself was about, I want to know if if the people in the chat feel that there are any doubts about that information in particular. I see one comment. I would have doubts about info being very recent, but I would question if it was from, say, 4 years ago. I'm just waiting to see, because I really want to make sure that that these things are addressed. And I know you have a long time followers who are in the chat right now and sharing their their concerns, and I just feel it's important. This particular subject is so important because this is exactly what happens. I personally I don't care for Alex Jones. Okay. I think that Alex Jones is such an arrogant prick. It's disgusting to me, if you want to know the truth. I think that he has lied and has been caught in lies on several occasions. I think that I also think that Alex Jones gets caught in lies because he tries so hard to appear as if he's on the forefront of everything, and that he has inside information on everything, and that he has has CIA ties, and he has military ties, and all of these things. I have seen Alex Jones puff up his chest for a long time, but there are also things that have been put on Alex Jones' platform that I feel are imperative for us to pay attention to, as far as the message itself, not the messenger. You know what I mean? And this in particular is so imperative for people to make sure that they're paying attention to it personally, because it affects you personally. What was in that video doesn't really have anything to do with Tori's background, or it really honestly doesn't have anything to do with if Tori really did do what she claimed that she was doing in the video. I don't doubt it, to be honest with you. I don't doubt that she was in the position that she claims that she was in. But that's not my focus, because I have no doubt and know, based on my own research going back 2 years, that what they're highlighting here for you to pay attention to and for you to understand and for you to be able to absorb and for you to be able to completely comprehend that you're just as much of a target. The shadow net information, the sweeping of information of real time, the selling of private information, the blackmailing of people in power and people that may become instrumental in whatever agenda is on topic for the day. You have to understand that this affects you personally. And if you go out there and you research this yourself, you will see that aside from the background of Tori, the background of Millie, whether you think they're controlled opposition or not, this information is real and it's happening and it's affecting you. And that's really the focus here. And I just want to make sure that people understand that. It's so important for you to understand that.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure how I want to address the Tory thing, because I
I
guess
don't feel like it's our place to address it,
well,
to be honest with you.
yeah, and I think the thing of it is, I think I brought her on, I believe, 3 times, so that should tell you everything you need to know about that. Um, and I see Jeffrey Doherty is in the crowd, um, my favorite interviewer.
Hello, Jeffrey.
um,
I loved the last live you
oh,
did with him. It was great.
gosh, yeah, he
It was
stuck
good.
me. He stuck me. Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. I support that video, and I got to admit too about Alex Jones. Alex was one of the first people that I went to um, when the internet started up, and people turned me on to Alex Jones, and I watched Alex for a while, and Alex has kind of evolved into somebody that I just really can't listen to anymore. Um, so uh, that's enough. That's all I want to say about Alex Jones. I think Alex puts out some good information, but I'm not really crazy about his delivery. Um, and I think that he has kind of an attitude that I don't really agree with. Because I know he's turned a lot of people off by certain things that he says and does, and he has a tendency to cut off his interviewees and do those kinds of things. So anyway, and I know some backstories about some people who have been interviewed by him. So I'll just leave it at that. Oh,
Okay, just one more thing. The
okay.
concern here is that we are, I'm trying to find this. Tori's info is public, and you're here telling everyone to vet her, which I personally am not telling anyone to vet Tori. The information that is out there on Tori is public. You're absolutely right about that. And they want to trust her. You're all welcome to call me out. No, that's absolutely. I just want to have an open and honest conversation and address comments in the chat. I don't want you to feel as if this is me calling you out. I feel it's important for us to address everyone's concerns and then still focus on the message. So I absolutely do not want anyone to feel as if this is a call out in any shape or form. That's not my intention here at all. I just feel that the information is the focus, and then but there's disinfo in that doc, and I'm not sure what that disinfo is, and if you want to drop it in the chat, or what your focus is for the disinfo, I think right now this is the platform to discuss it and to to address this. And sorry, I'm taking over your show.
No,
Paladin,
you're
but
good. No, you're okay. I just feel uncomfortable speaking for Tori.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to do that at
I,
all. That's
I,
why I don't feel like the focus should be Tori herself. I don't
but
feel like
yeah,
it should
it
be.
shouldn't be. I mean, it definitely shouldn't be. And Tori, has been where she says Tori speaks several languages. And if any of you know what that means to military intelligence, then that should answer some of your questions. So, Tori and I have a lot of things in common. We want to get information out to the people. We have unique backgrounds where my focus has been in the financial realm, and there's a lot of information that I have on the financial realm and the white hats as a group. Tori's background is intelligence. Okay. She speaks several languages. So if any of you know anything about military intelligence, that should tell you a lot because they are used for a lot of different things. Okay. She worked with Brennan as a private contractor. Okay. So she has a background where she speaks from a place that she is knowledgeable about the information that she puts out. And just like my information that we put out, it's easily vettable. So vet it on your own. Okay. Vet it on your own. That's all you have to do. That's all I'm saying. Because I will say that about myself. Don't take my word for anything. Vet everything I say. Check it for yourself because it's better that you arrive at the conclusion about how you feel about the information rather than have someone direct you to the information or basically tell you download the information to you, because then you're not knowledgeable about it. You may be able to go tell somebody about what I said, but then if somebody starts asking you questions and you're not familiar with it because you haven't researched it, then you're going to have a hard time answering the questions. And it's better to have a full understanding of it by doing it on your own. And we're just out here trying to give you information so that you will be more knowledgeable about what's going on. And that really covers it, I think.
Right.
Okay, so what
Right.
do
And
we
this isn't a group think thing. This is not majority rules. This is honestly, for me, it's, again, about the message itself. And I'm just gonna say there's two sides to every coin. And while there is okay, there can be ego at play in with every messenger, right? There can be ego at play. There can be information out there also that may not be correct or may have been put out there for a particular purpose, especially with certain people in certain positions. Maybe Tori's one of those people that may conflict with her actual background, but that could be for a reason. There could be information out there against her or her family that that was intentional or by design based on a power play, or there could be actual issues with that family, with her husband, with her, with her issues, whatever it might be. But that is aside from the information in the documentary to me, because I have researched this information myself. I know it to be true. I know that ShadowNet is really the focus, and the focus is to understand how manipulated our world really is. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, and if Tori will tell us things that can't be vetted because it's based on her experience. And if you're uncomfortable with Tori, just disregard that. She does give us a lot of information that you can go vet. So vet what she gives you and disregard the stuff that you can't vet and leave it at that. But I do
Right.
know that she supports Trump. I do know that she has been intelligence. I do know that she has information that she has put out that I know to be accurate. And so that is good enough for me. Okay. Um, so what are we going to do? Where do we want to go now?
Well, I thought we were going to open it up to questions in the
Okay.
chat.
All right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Because I thought maybe you might want to talk a little bit about.
Well, I thought we'd end with that. Or do
Okay.
you want to do it now? Do you want to do it?
Well,
I mean, I don't
yeah,
want to
that's
talk
okay.
much about it.
Well, I'm sure there's gonna be questions. There is one thing. Someone brought up Robert David Steele to me, and
I
I
saw that
don't
in the
know.
chat.
Yeah, I don't know what he said. I do know that he put out something. Um, but I don't know the substance of what he put out. So um, so if anybody wants to concisely put that in the chat, I'll try to address it. I'm just not sure.
I'm not aware. I watched well, when was this? I watched an interview with Robert David Steele, but I
I
hope
think
that's not what we're.
Yeah, I think he put out something in relation to this video that they put out, but I didn't see it. So
Oh, I haven't seen that. No, I haven't
okay.
seen that.
So I'm not aware of I'm not aware of the content of what he put out. Okay, is Project Looking Glass real? Do you want to address that? That's your
Well,
favorite
I
subject,
I
isn't it?
I can only give my opinion. Um, and I think this is the same person who is asking this was asking about Tori claiming she's a time traveler, just so you know. So maybe you want to address uh, Tori's time traveler label on her Twitter before we
Well,
answer the Project Looking Glass.
I don't, the thing of it is, I don't know. I mean, Tori used to say that, and I talked to her privately, and I'm like, "Look, girl, you need to give me access to your time machine." and and I don't know that. I don't think that's what she means. I think what she means is because of where she is and what she has access to, because she has got a network that she corresponds with, I'll say, and I think that gives her the ability to have information about what is going to happen in the future. And it is enough information where she can put out certain things and be fairly accurate about what is going to happen based on what she knows. And in that regard, I have been putting out information. When we first got into the Discord, I dumped a lot of information. And, sometimes I think sometimes I regret that because I think to a certain degree, I gave everybody the results of what was going to happen based on the plan, and we were successful, but I never talked about the steps we were going to have to take to get there and the pain that we were going to have to go through. And, and we're going through the pain right now. So I think from that standpoint, when Tori says she's a time traveler, I don't think she has a time machine. I think she has access to information just like I do, that gives her insight into what is going to happen in the future.
I agree with that. Actually, I can relate to that. I mean, that there are until you can look at it from that perspective or that point of view, and you can think about information. If you research, and especially if you research like I research, you can somewhat start to predict or feel like you are can predict and pretty accurately. You can predict a scenario or how a scenario might play out. And so if you are doing the due diligence on your research, and you do have you have certain information, or you keep track of that information, I think anybody could be a time traveler in that aspect, metaphorically speaking, right?
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I do believe that's what she means when she says that. And of course, people want an explanation of exactly what it means, and she's not going to go through that. I went through it try to help people maybe put that together. But she's got access to information, and you start telling people that. Well, you got to remember that there are people that are watching her, and they're going to try to get on her comms and find out who she's talking to and all that stuff. And I don't want to go into that, but you have to be careful about how you put information out, because those of us who are in the public view, we have to protect sources and we have to protect methods. And you have to understand that. You that are listening to us put this out, you have to understand that we have got to protect sources.
Sharon H, I cannot agree with you more. This is the Great Awakening, and we have more than we know, and that applies to every single one of us. We have the ability to be a quote time traveler also, if we you know do the work to understand what's really happening in the world. You're that much closer to being a true time traveler and being able to understand where this is going and what your role is in it. So I agree, Sharon H, this is all part of the Great Awakening.
Yeah, it is. It is. And everybody's got their own path to take to get there. And that's what everybody has to understand. You have your own path, and that the path you take is completely dependent on your background, your experience, and your perspective, because that's what's shaped you. That's what's brought you to where you are today. And all of us are on various paths, and we're all on certain, you know, all on certain places going down that path. Some of us are ahead, some of us are behind, some of us are in the middle, but we're all trying to go to the same place. The destination is the same. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And how we get there is not as important as knowing that it's personal to each person, because, maybe we're going to have differences of opinion on certain people and certain personalities. Try to stay away from that and try to focus on the information that they're putting out there, and try to take the emphasis off of who is saying it, because, well, in my mind, they have more credibility than this person and that person. Try to train yourself to look at the information and vet it for yourself. That's a good exercise. And if you can start doing that, then you will be able to ascertain which people are putting out the better information, and you will gravitate to those places on your own. Okay, because
Aside
everybody's
from
got to,
that, though,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
because everybody's got their, everybody has their opinion on, well, you shouldn't go on this show and you should go on that show, and that associates you with that person or whatever. And that's really not the case at this point in time. At this point in time, the most important thing is to get the information out. If I had a chance to go on somebody's show that had 200,000 subscribers, but they may not have the same view that I do on a lot of different things, I might just go ahead and do it anyway, because I'm hitting, there's a base of people there that I'm able to get the information out to. And that, after all, is the objective. What they do with it is up to them, but the objective is to get the word out. So anyway, I hope we're
Well,
not
aside
confusing.
aside from all that, and I don't think we are, but aside from all that, yes, I believe Project Looking Glass is real. um, I don't think it's something that the average bear has access to. I think that is a metaphorical time traveler. But yes, I believe that Project Looking Glass is a real thing. So we needed to answer that question. I know you do too.
Well, and as I understand it, it's been shut down because they're frustrated. They got frustrated with it a long time ago because it kept going. It kept basically giving them the same answer, if you will. And there are various people say various things about it. I mean, sometimes the information you know, some people call it a computer, some people call it a device, whatever it is, you know, a device from, you know, the off-worlders that we got a hold of. Some people say it's a computer. Whatever it is, the concept is that it is a way in which you can input data into this device or into this computer, and it will spit out information as far as how it relates to the future. Okay. So I think probably the best way to think about it is like, I think we're all familiar with the movie War Games, where, you know, Matthew Broderick tapped into the Whopper. I forget what that stood for, but it was WOPR, and it was a computer that ran the nuclear strategy, the nuclear stuff for the US. And he almost started a nuclear war because he thought he was playing a game, but it was actually real. So, and we know about the war scenarios where they work out, they say, okay, if Moscow strikes us first, and we retaliate, and you know, they do all those different scenarios to see if there's a way that one side or the other will win and what the advantages are. Well, so Looking Glass, they put all these scenarios into Looking Glass, and it kept giving them the same timeline after 2012. And the same timeline was essentially that the truth is going to be revealed. The lies that have been told for all these years and centuries are going to be revealed to everybody. We're going to know all the lies. Now, the only thing is, I have not been able to find anybody who had access to that machine or that device that was able to tell us when. And this is what the Great Awakening is. You know, Bill Woods 8 years ago described it as the awakening. That's what he said. That's it. Those were his exact words, the awakening. So I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind, but we just don't know when that event is going to occur.
I agree with that.
So
He did actually say the awakening. I think that was in 2000.
That was January 2012. I remember
Yeah.
that interview because Carrie gave me a heads up, and I was actually in her Skype when she was talking to him. They had gone to a place in Malibu, close to the beach, in a retail place. That's where they met, and they kept having helicopters fly over because he was a SEAL, and he was describing some of the Tomahawk missile um, assignments that he had in Iraq when nobody knew that it was going on. And so they finally they had to shut the interview down and go to a place that was quieter. And that's when they finished it up. I think it was maybe a 2 hours and 20 or 30-minute video or interview that it ended up to be. And at the last 30 or 40 minutes of the interview was in regards to Looking Glass. And I actually think Tori played that the other day on either her Twitch or her radio show or something. I think she actually played part of that video. So anyway, that's what Looking Glass is. Dan Burish also, Carrie did some interviews with Dan Burish years ago, and he talked about having access to Looking Glass too. And I think he said basically the same thing that Bill Woods said about it. So okay, I guess we can take some more questions if anybody has any.
Well, I'm reading the comments as you talk, and I'm seeing someone call us out for us taking our own advice on our opinion of Alex Jones. And just so I can clarify, I gave that opinion about Alex Jones because that's truly how I feel about Alex Jones. I do think he's an arrogant prick. But the fact of the matter is, I also said I feel like he has messages on his platform that are imperative for people to hear. That is my demonstrating to you, everyone, how I can hear the message without needing to, quote, trust the messenger. I'm seeing a lot of the use of that word trust in the chat. And I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Paladin. Actually, I do know about you. But this is coming from an Italian girl who puts trust and loyalty number one on my list. And I feel that you are using the word trust, or people are using the word trust very loosely. I don't know that there's anyone that I could say out there on YouTube, aside from people that I have developed, long relationships with, or good relationships with. I can't say that I would not go out and say, I trust this person, or I trust what they're saying. There's a difference between having trust in someone, in my world, and being able to discern the information that they're providing to you. So just want to make sure I clarify there. I can use discernment and information that's provided on the Alex Jones platform. I don't have to like the guy.
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't listen to him only because, he'll do an interview with somebody and it'll be a 15-minute interview, and the person that he's interviewing will get to talk for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and the rest of it'll be Alex, going off,
Yes.
interrupting him. Yes, we brought that up. We talked about that last year, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, and it's personal preference. It's personal preference. And it's not that I don't trust Alex Jones. That's not the issue. It's just that his delivery style is just not something for me. And my gosh, guys, I mean, there are hundreds of people out there putting information out every single day. I don't have time to go watch everybody. There are certain people that, attract me based on subject matter. And that's what I look for. That's what attracts me to certain places. And recently we've been so busy on trying to get things ready for after the quantum financial system gets up and going, and the projects we're going to do, the humanitarian projects, that I am split between that and trying to stay up with the news. And the news is coming fast and furious. It's I can't keep up with it for most of the time. So and everybody has their own preferences, and that's fine. Just I think the message we want to put out there, at least I think from my standpoint, is just listen to the message, listen to the information. Okay, always vet the information and make sure that you're comfortable with it, because we're all human and we can all make mistakes. We can all make mistakes. I mean, I don't know if it was a mistake, but I put out last week that Brennan was supposed to be arrested. Well, that's what I was told. So I put it out there. So, well, he wasn't arrested. So we'll look for this week. But that seems to be in my circle. That seems to be imminent. That seems, because I wouldn't get that information unless the guys in my circle were not pretty confident that that was going to happen. So, is there a delay of a week or two? Who knows? We'll see. So, you have to remember that some of us that put information out, we're getting it from other areas and other places. And maybe at the time that we got it, it was accurate, but everybody has free will, and something could have changed between the time that we heard it and the time that it was supposed to happen, and it changed. So, we all have to understand that. Okay.
All right. I'm going to
Go
take these
ahead.
off. All right.
All right,
Okay. I'm going to answer my opinion.
go.
And then I'm going to throw it to you. Okay. I'm going to take the easiest one first, which is the Putin's daughter dying. I'm not buying it. Okay. That's my opinion on that. Very little information out there, unless something changed today. I don't know, but I looked into that quite a bit yesterday. I'm not seeing that as confirmed information. Has anything changed today that you know of?
I haven't seen anything on that at all. That hit the radar yesterday or the day before?
I think it was the day before.
Okay.
It's still out there yesterday. I know that, there's a lot of conversation on Reddit about it. There was an article that was produced about it. There were some channels that were putting it out there. This is a good example. I would be careful, me personally, I would be careful about putting that information out there unless I can, that it's confirmed information, and it doesn't seem to be confirmed. I can't say for sure. I don't know Putin personally, but I will say something about Putin though that I heard today, and I haven't vetted this yet either. But did he date or is dating Murdoch's ex-wife? Rupert Murdoch's ex-wife. Is that true?
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I heard that today. See, there's another thing. Who knows? Everybody go look. I
Yeah,
personally find that fascinating.
the thing of it is with his daughter, um, and the vaccine thing. I mean, that's just that. People like him. He's got food tasters, right? And you would think he'd have the same thing around the family. In other words, they would be the last people to take a vaccine. Everyone else would test that vaccine before Putin's daughter would be testing the vaccine. So that's
Yeah,
where it goes sideways for me. I just can't
I agree with you.
fathom
I
that.
think it's the whole story was, hey, you know, we don't need your help with any freaking vaccine over here. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, the story is, we don't need the vaccine. We're good. I have one. Gave it to my daughter. Cool. Move on. Don't try and give
Hmm.
it to us.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way I take it.
Yeah.
We don't need your stinking vaccine. Is what
Okay.
Putin is trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Next thing is coins. What's happening with the coins? I'm going to say, it's not just coins. There is an aluminum can shortage too, from what I understand. And this might be of particular interest to everyone in this chat because, my God, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a shortage of aluminum foil. And what will all us crazy tinfoil hat wearers do at that point? I don't know. But I think that there is something going on with the materials that make coins, and it seems to me that the Federal Reserve is trying damn hard to get your coins back.
Yeah. I think it's a push. I haven't heard anything official from my guys there. That's not even in their realm of, that's not even something they're thinking about. But anyway, I think it may have some pushback to do with the Federal Reserve because they're on their last legs. They're just about toast. They're just about done. So this may be them trying to force everybody to use, your cards. And our friend who wrote the Inheritance told me one time in a telephone conversation. He says if that ever happens, he says just carry cash with you. They don't have coins. Give them the, if it's $27.38, give them the $27 in cash, and then tell them you'll pay the 38 cents with your card.
Yeah, that is a brilliant idea. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
a brilliant
S-
idea. They might change their mind about that shortage
Yeah, they have to
real
start
quick.
processing and paying the fees on those processing fees for the credit cards on the pennies. They might change that. I haven't experienced the aluminum thing. I did notice a couple places around here where they said they have a coin shortage, and they said, and I should have asked, but I didn't. They said something about buying your coins from you, and I didn't know what that meant. Buying your coins. That was pretty interesting.
Well, I will tell you, I don't know if you have the franchise Taco John's.
No,
Do you have that
no,
in your
no,
area? Okay, well,
no.
it's a fast food restaurant, and I think it was them and somewhere else. They were giving away free food if you bring your coins in.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So not
Okay.
that you want to eat it anyway. I mean, it's, you know,
Uh huh.
you'd probably, be better off just avoiding
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah.
ploy altogether. But
Somebody's.
but what I've noticed around here, something that's happening again is that the grocery store shelves are starting to become pretty bare in my area.
Oh really?
Again, for some, yeah, just random things are, the my other half went to the store tonight, and they told him that, because things were slim pickings on certain products, not everything, but on certain products, and they told him that, yeah, he asked what's going on, why,
Mm-hmm.
why aren't you guys filling your shelves up, and the gal was like, I don't know what's going on, but they were running out of beer. Oh my
Huh.
goodness. I guess, all kinds of things. Now that could tie to the aluminum can thing. that I'm referring to. But these are other products too, just, random products. I'm not even going to be able to sit here and tell you everything, but there are, and spices. Spices have been an issue, just intermittently. It's not
Hmm.
been consistent. It's intermittently since, the whole virus thing has started, but there are shortages on.
I wonder if that's a supply chain thing.
Honestly, my first thought when I've heard about this, especially there's one grocery store chain in particular that, put their foot down about this whole mask BS, and, they bought like 2 million masks or something, and they handed them out to their customers, but said, it's your choice. If you want to put it on, you can,
Right.
or not. Well, they got a whole lot of flack for that. And, my first thought was, because it was the store chain, that grocery store chain in particular,
Right.
my thought was, what are their distributors punishing them for,
Hmm.
for taking a stand? It's a manipulation of some sort. There's an agenda out here to think, to make you think the food shortage is, upon us. It's always a manipulation of some sort,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah, that's kind of where I go to, because I have noticed certain things in the grocery store. I mean, it seems like they're really back to normal. The first few weeks of this in March were kind of hectic, and some of the shelves were bare. And then it seemed like they got most everything stocked again, although there were still some items that were short. And then now it seems like they're almost back to normal, but there are still some items that are still not there. So I wonder if and it's just a few, so it seems to me like it might be just specific items that have supply chain issues that haven't been resolved yet. I don't know. I know my dad likes the strawberry vanilla ice cream bars that are soft because of his teeth. And he can't get those. We haven't been able to get those for like 2 months, and he's
Yeah,
really
ice cream has been
bent.
on the list for sure. Ice
Thank
cream has been an issue.
thank you, Leggett. Yeah, that's and they're the soft ones. They're not like the popsicles. They're the soft, the fruit bars. And so he's really, he's really sideways on that one. He's really bent.
Yeah.
So we're having to look
All
for
right, the
alternative.
other thing, because this person's been very patient, but they've asked a couple times in the chat, and I'm going to give it to you. They want to know all about Russell J. Gould.
That I saw that too, and I was going to give that to you.
No, I'm giving it to you.
Well, the interesting part is, I thought about this today, and I was going to mention it to you, and I forgot. Um, I'm sure you're aware. Well, everybody's aware of the mail-in voting thing, right? And now they're
Hmm.
talking about the post office and the postmaster and all this kind of stuff. And I actually think I heard today that the postmaster general is going to be interviewed or going to go before Congress here shortly. I think I heard
Yes.
that just today, right? Okay. I'm
Yes.
I'm anxious to see if it's going to be Russell J. Gould.
No, it won't be. It will be Louis DeJoy.
Okay, there you go. So we've addressed the Russell J. Gould thing more times than we want to say. I just don't know what to tell you at this point about that. You would have to throw that my way.
Well, I honestly, again, okay, this is about the message, not the messenger, because honestly, you could look at both. You could, go out there and look at both. But the message, if you're talking about the message itself, it goes nowhere. There's nothing that comes to fruition from the message itself when you're talking about Russell J. Gould. Nothing actually occurs from it. There's no substance to it. I can't find anything that backs it up. The message itself, okay? There's a lot of things out there about the messenger, but there's nothing I can find to back up the message. And the fact of the matter is, Trump did strategically place a person as Postmaster General. That was by design because of the mail-in voting. We hear about voter fraud every damn day, especially now. and how rampant it is, and how many problems there are with with mail-in fraud, mail-in voter fraud. It is one of the biggest problems when it comes to, preserving our elections right now. And if you pay attention to social media and, the people out there that are pushing an agenda for mail-in voter fraud and trying to tell you that, that it's all fraudulent information, that that it's your right as an American for mail-in mail-in voting ballots. We should not be opposed to voter ID. We should not be opposed to ensuring the fact that those votes are coming from actual Americans. That shouldn't be a problem for anyone. Anyone. So if you have seen in social media lately the huge pushback on DeJoy and his moves in regards to the post office, you can understand and discern pretty quickly that he was strategically placed for a reason, and it's for protecting our elections and our process in order to ensure that who is actually voted in wins the election. That is why you're seeing this pushback. So I hope that we're not trying to just glaze over the Gould thing, but again, it's a great story. It's a great story. There's some really interesting videos out there about Gould and David Wynn Miller, but there's no substance to any of it besides one envelope that is plastered on the back of his background trying to demonstrate his title. That's it. Unless somebody else has something that I don't know about, please bring it forward, but I don't see it. And this is in regards to the message, not the messenger.
Okay.
So
thank you for bailing me out on that one. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Any other questions? So not legit. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's legit or not. I just don't know that he's got the juice to get anything done. I think, well, let's leave it at that. And there's one other thing, and before somebody mentions it, I'm sure Kim Gogan, with the Mana World Trust, and that's kind of the same situation. I think there's a lot of talk there, but why would you allow somebody else to have control of the funds of the accounts when if it's our money, just give it to us. We don't need some hero that can, be in charge of it and be the custodian of the funds. Just, give it to us. That's all. Okay. Let's see.
Are we following a biblical script?
I think
Who wrote it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really a deep subject because, there's a lot of controversy over the Bible, and there's supposedly several chapters that weren't included in the Bible. I think there's some excellent information in there, but I think there's also some, I guess, what you refer to as dogma that may not be accurate. I don't know. I know I've watched Charles Ward, but again, I don't know that much about him. I think I've watched one of his videos and I don't even remember. Have you heard of something happening?
Wait.
Okay.
I just want to address are we following a biblical script thing? If we look at this in the fashion that we all have God within us, we all have that spiritual side of us, then who gets to write the script? Who's writing it?
Yeah.
Who's writing that biblical script? Should be you.
Yeah.
That's just what I think. Were the Bushes and Clintons executed?
Senior was. I haven't heard that any of the rest of them have been. Somebody asked about October.
I heard that October's supposed to be real exciting.
Yeah, and it is supposed to be real exciting.
Messages. We
No,
might hear about Roswell in October.
yeah, no spoil.
Messages. JFK will be coming much more present as far as um, the history, the files. That might be a hot topic in the next couple of months.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah. Okay.
Where did I just saw another question. Boy, these are going by like scrolling
Yeah.
pretty quick. Can the Treasury audit the Fed now?
Yeah, they can, I guess. I don't know if they will. There's probably no reason to because the Fed's going to be done here shortly. So there won't be any need to audit the Fed. They will be no longer in our life. Debt Jubilee, I can't give you any information on that. I don't know. That one I don't know. And Nasara, again, true or wishful thinking. Eric, Nasara as a law was never passed. We've gone over this too before. Although I will say that there is a good possibility that some of the principles, some of the foundation of Nasara, we might see here once they get the new system in place and we win the day. I mean, it's not just the financial system. I've kind of said this before that we have battles on other fronts that we need to win if we're going to win, because if we don't win those other battles, then the bad guys will then take over the financial system again and we'll be in the same boat that we are now. So yes, the IRS is the Fed's army. They're actually the IRS is actually the collection agency for the feds. And if you've noticed, Trump's talking about getting rid of the payroll tax, and he's going to make it permanent if he gets reelected. He's talking about cutting down the capital gains tax. I guess I misheard him or misunderstood. I thought he was going to get rid of it completely, but I guess he's going to cut it, the percentage. And reality is, I believe, and I've researched the IRS at one point, and I think that reality is the only people who were supposed to pay taxes were federal employees and people who made money on investments because it's passive income. So that may be why capital gains tax may stay into effect. But if you're talking about taking out payroll taxes, because in that, I don't know if anybody read that EO that he wrote about the payroll taxes, it talks about forgiving tax liability in there. So that means no income tax. And if we get rid of the IRS,
federal.
Yeah, federal income tax, right. And if we get rid of the Federal Reserve, there won't be a need. And I've talked about this before. The consensus is from our group, from our network, is that we're going to have a national sales tax, or what's better known as a consumption tax, where you'll pay an extra percentage or 2 or 3 on the goods and probably also on services that you pay for. You'll pay some tax on that as opposed to having a federal income tax. So the trade-off will be more money in our pocket for sure. Okay.
Someone above in the chat asked about Kim Clement. You remember he was the guy, he passed away. He predicted or prophesized about Trump being president.
Oh, and he passed away?
Yeah, he died a while ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The same. He was a pastor. You know who I'm talking about? Kim Clement. And he what all did he there were videos out there about him, and he talked about Trump being president. And what else? The person who asked helped me out. It's been a long time since I've watched those videos.
I wasn't aware of that at all.
The singing prophet. Oh, I thought we talked about that before. Yeah. Yes, that he would serve 2 terms. That's right, Deidre. There were some other things that he said too. What was it? It was about it was financially related. And I can't remember right now. I mean, it's literally been like 3 years since I watched that. But he did say that he would be a 2-term president. And this was back in, geez, I can't remember when he actually said it. Years ago, though. Years ago. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, I've heard of them. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've watched those. Keeping real, no, I do not think. Well, okay, let me clarify. The question is, do you think they will try to force vax on us? I think that from a federal standpoint, Trump staying in office, and that no, there will not be a mandatory vaccination. Do I think that certain states or even employers will try to force a vaccination? I do. I do think that will occur. And then that is when it's up to you as an individual, if you're put in that position, to do what you feel like is right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and if you think it's right to not get a vaccine, and that means that you might have to find another job, or, there will be pain through this process. I will tell you personally, if my employer tried to tell me that I had to have a vaccination, or if I can't fly on an airline because I have to have a vaccination, I will not work at that company. I will not fly on that plane. I will not get a vaccination. And I will raise hell because that's being forced upon me, or trying to be forced.
Yeah, and the thing of it is with that, just taking that to the end, if everybody did that, okay, let's say you've got an employer and your employer employs 100 people or 200 people or 50 people or 20 people or however many they employ, and they say, well, you got to be vaccinated, and you all say you're not going to do it, what's your employer going to do?
Right.
No, I mean that's it. I mean that's really the solution.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else with questions? I might have missed some. If you're not seeing all of the comments, make sure you go up to the top of your comments and hit live chat instead of top chat.
Yeah.
That might be an issue. What do you do,
Yeah.
Paladin, to decompress? Not talk to Lady Justice for a couple days. Avoid me entirely.
Okay, next question. Next question.
No, really, what do you do to decompress, Paladin?
Sombrero. Sombrero. But I think this vaccination. I mean, it's a good question. It's a valid question, and it's a tough question because I think that if you were told that your freedom depends on the decision that you make on that, and that the next 6 months or a year, the decisions you make will determine whether we are free as a country or we are slaves. That is probably in a nutshell tells you the importance of that decision.
Well, I will tell anyone who is willing to do the research on their own and do some reading. Go and read the order, the executive order that Trump signed on September 19th, 2019, in regards to vaccinations and national security. And go and read the advisory committee. It's 43 pages long. There was an advisory committee report published around the same time, September of 2019, that concentrates on the way vaccinations are produced, the safety, the ability to mass produce for vaccinations, pandemic issues. Now, keep in mind, those two documents are right before Trump also did a pandemic exercise in October of 2019 called Crimson Contagion, and where he tested for the response of the nation based on a pandemic. Put those timelines together, but really read the information on the vaccinations themselves, because there are some people that have been out there trying to twist that executive order into, in my opinion. But read it. I mean, just read it for yourselves, because there are people that their message that they received with this executive order is that Trump is planning for mandatory vaccinations. That's not the case. Read the information itself. But if you all know, there's one person in particular who has spoken out on vaccinations for a very long time, and that would be RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr. He has been staunchly against the types of vaccinations that are given to our children, the mandatory vaccinations for them to be able to enter schools, and the safety of vaccinations. And with that being said, he will also tell you that he is not anti-vax. It's how they're made. It's what's in them. It's the process itself that is concerning to him. But he is not anti-vax. If you go and listen to Dr. Judy Mikovits, and she talks about this particular vaccination, or the vaccination process, the dangers of vaccinations, the benefits of cannabis, that offset the vaccination issue. She has a lot of valid information to give, and she will also tell you she is not anti-vax. But it's all in regards to the vaccination itself, how it's made, how it's produced, what materials are in it, and what the actual reactions would be for the people it's given to. So, if you want to look at a particular subject or a topic, you have to take it all into consideration, is my opinion. And I do not believe that from the position that President Trump presents himself to, at all times, and historically speaking, in his presidency, you can go back and see how much he truly stands for the Constitution and truly stands for the Bill of Rights and the rights of the people. There is no damn way that Trump is going to put in a mandatory vaccination. No way.
And if you listen to whenever that comes up, or whenever he's talking about that, he's either asked a question or he brings it up himself. He always talks about therapeutics too. And I think that I don't know if that was an EO that he did in September. I think everybody should read that too. It's got some interesting things. And I think the fact that he included other departments besides health related departments in that process tells you really a lot about what's going on. You got the DOJ in there, and that tells that tells me a lot about what is going to be going on, because you got the DOJ vetting something that's health related. That's why would they be looking at it? They're going to arrest somebody? Well, maybe. So I think we got to take that into consideration. And I also think that we've got to understand that we are trying to get through this, and Trump is juggling 100 balls all at the same time. You have to understand that too, because they are throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at him right now to try to get him off his game and to try to capitalize on this pandemic, scamdemic, whatever you want to call it. And so I think that he is navigating as best he can. And a lot of this is buying time. A lot of this is him putting information out there to, to basically kick the can down the road, so to speak, because all these people are rushing to do vaccinations, but that doesn't mean that any of them are going to be approved to be given to us. Okay. And in that process, there could be some other things that are going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of that could be criminal in nature, and it could blow the whole thing out of the water. And I actually think that's what's going to happen here before the election. This whole scamdemic is going to get blown up. Okay. And Michelle asked 2 or 3 times about what we think is the most pressing issue right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yes,
Go
I do.
for it. Go for it.
Well, I think the most pressing issue right now is, well, I mean, honestly, that really is dependent upon, and if you're meaning the most pressing issue for yourself, as far as what role you can play, or what part you can play in making a difference, or if you mean the most pressing issue in general for our future. I'm not sure what she means, so I'll take both. In general, I think the most pressing issue that's looming in the near future is the election itself. Ensuring that we keep Trump in office, and all of the things, even though there might be some things that seem like they're shifting, where maybe the talons digging into Trump's back might be loosening a little bit. I feel like always keep a watchful eye, because to me there's always an agenda. So the election is absolutely a major focus. Along with that, I think that there are pressing issues that we as individuals need to take upon ourselves, to do our part in, and obviously, like we've already said, taking a stand against the removal of your rights, trying to force you to wear a mask, you're trying to force businesses to close, that sort of thing. There was a report that came out today in my area that's, amazingly, all of a sudden, our Department of Health somehow screwed up on the reporting statistics for the Rona, and we're actually short on how many tests, or how many people actually test positive. So all of a sudden, our caseload is worse than what's been reported. These types of things are very important to pay attention to, and to do your part in speaking out on, because I feel that there's always an agenda behind these things. And another thing that I feel like that we need to focus on, there's a lot of talk about the Smith-Mundt Act and the manipulation that came along with that, with the propaganda that was all of a sudden legal to be in use and in play in the US. But I feel that it's really important for people to diligently and just hammer your representatives, the White House. There needs to be a pen in place to reverse the Communications Act, that that gave these now 5 corporations the ability to monopolize the media. And I think that's a pressing issue that we need to address as individuals.
Well, I agree. The election is the most important thing now, because if we don't get Trump, we don't keep Trump in office, um, all these other things that we're talking about will be out of play. They won't be an issue. So I think that's accurate to me. I think it's fighting back in a general sense on the masks and the mandates, because they're trying to take our way of life away from us. They're trying to change us socially, so we don't interact and we don't get close and we don't have parties and we don't have gatherings and get-togethers and all that kind of stuff. And I think anytime they do this stuff, there's always they always kill several birds with one stone. So I think we need to keep that in mind and resist all these controls that they're trying to put in place for this scamdemic, because that's pushback and that's what we can do on a daily basis right now. But I do think we need to be ready to get out and vote in November, because we got to keep Trump in office. Otherwise, we're all toast.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. And I'll tell you just one more thing on the vaccinations part in RFK Jr. If you haven't seen the debate, I guess you could call it, with Dershowitz, it's classic.
Oh, it's
R
amazing.
RFK Jr. Um, he RFK Jr. drops a bunch of information in that debate with Dershowitz. Dershowitz tries to take the constitutional approach, which I don't agree with. It doesn't matter whether I agree or disagree with him anyway. But RFK makes the point that they're not safe, and the way they're doing them now, and so therefore, that's going to be a problem that needs to be addressed. And so it's worth watching, because RFK Jr. drops so much information and knowledge in there. That he knows what he's talking about.
It's a great video to watch, and especially, I have to say, he definitely has that Kennedy charm.
Yeah, yeah. And he's researched it, man. He's been on this for years.
Oh, he's on top of it.
Yeah.
He was on top of it.
I don't know.
Yeah, he slayed that debate, hands down.
I don't think there's
Deep Shitowich had no chance in hell.
Yeah.
Of standing up against him. That's my endearing nickname for.
Oh, okay. We're 2.5 hours in. Let's talk about what we've been putting off a little bit, just to give an update.
Okay, I do. It's kind of a lot to get into with with that patent.
Yeah.
That was filed. So, if anyone doesn't know about that, which, I mean, that's a whole conversation into itself. It was a Postal Service filed a blockchain voting patent. So maybe we can talk about that on our next live. That's
Okay.
a lot to get into.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, we can talk about. We're hoping that we will have a follow-up live stream in the near future. It's something that we're talking about and deciding on what course of action would be best to pursue. But we're hoping to get Mr. Fulton back on in the near future. I'm not really sure what all we want to talk about, so I'll let you take the lead here.
Well, I think I had a conversation with him. He called me and we spoke, because we had been sort of talking about having another interview. And so he called me up and we talked briefly about that and some other things. And then you and I followed up with a phone call last week, on Friday, I guess it was, with him, and we discussed that. And he is, I guess I I think this can be disclosed. He is in the process of uh, dealing with the possibility of putting out a documentary on the information that he has. So he's going to put our interview on hold for maybe the end till the end of this week to see how those discussions go, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully we will be able to get him back for a second interview. Um, I guess the one thing I want to say, and I've said this before, and I've said this since 1963, the Kennedy assassination is the most important event that has happened in the last 60 years. And it is still as important today, if not more important, than the day it happened because of what's resulted from it. And it blows really, I mean, compared to everything else that's going on, that is the key that unlocks all of it. Everything that's going on today, that is the key that unlocks everything, because you can track everything from there till today. And I know maybe some of you weren't around even then, some of you don't remember it. Um, and probably everybody feels like 9/11 was the biggest was the biggest event in their lifetime, and it probably was if you weren't around in 1963. But I can assure you that 1963 uh, dwarfs that 9/11. So that tells you the importance of that event. That was a turning point in the United States. Um, the deep state had been trying to take over our government for probably 20 or 30 years. And in 1963, they got it done. And the direction of this country changed and has gone off the rails to the point where they were able to pull off a 9/11 and get away with it because they pulled off the assassination of a president and they got away with it. So once they did that, they were basically able to do pretty much anything. And that's what they've done. So that's the importance of that book. And I know some of you probably have read that book, and some of you have maybe gotten it on order. And when we spoke to um, Christopher Fulton Friday, that they had some books on back. Did he say they had some books on back order, and they had just received them, and he was trying to get through the signing and get him sent out. So hopefully, if you guys are still waiting, you'll have them within the next few days. Anything?
I believe that they have been able to get those out. People are starting to receive those books, so
Yeah,
that's good news. And I would love to have Christopher back on. I know that the audience responded very well to his information and to his passion for where we are in this country currently. I think that he adds a lot of he just has a lot to offer in regards to where we're positioned now, and making sure that we can all realize how much we all play a role and what we need to do. And he had great feedback about the comments on the last video or the last interview that we did. He was really, really pleased with the interaction in the chat and the attention that was held in the chat, and the questions and the comments. He was very, very impressed by those comments and the insight in the chat. And he did feel that there was that he would like to be able to at some point be able to provide further direction so to speak, on current day, and what we all can do to to ensure that we have a better future and that we have a future for our children. He's very passionate about that, and I admire so much his dedication and passion for the country and for Americans. And he really went through one hell of a time, because of how much he believes in our country and the passion he holds for our Constitution and our rights. So if you haven't purchased the book, I strongly suggest that you do, because it's an incredible book. Just remember that it is written to where you can find the Easter eggs if you're looking hard enough within the book itself, and they are there. So just remember that if you read the book, if you have it now and you're reading it, make sure you read between the lines, because there's a lot there in between the lines. And so that's important to pay attention to.
Okay. I think we'll end with that. We're going on 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that's plenty for a Monday.
Think so.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
So
a lot for a Monday.
Yeah. So give your parting shot, and I'll close it down.
Thanks everyone for participating tonight. And I do want to just reiterate what we were talking about earlier, that please focus on every message, not just the messenger. And I do appreciate the feedback and the comments, and really providing us an opportunity to clarify even more about the message over messenger focus. So thank you for that, and thanks everyone for being here. And for the super chats, thank you so much for the super chats, and thanks everyone for your support and keeping up the good fight.
Okay. Thank you all for putting up with us. I know some people don't like us rambling, and so if you don't like that, you don't have to listen. Nobody's making you be in here or making you stay in here. So
oh, you're doing something right when you've got mask holes in the chat.
Yeah, when they when they're complaining about it, and they're still here, so I think that's okay. But anyway, so everybody have a good night. I hope that you're able to go forward now with hopefully some information that we've given you as far as vetting information. Again, message over messenger. Whenever you're in doubt, just keep that in mind. It's message over messenger. Vet the message, and pretty soon that will become second nature to you. That will be the first place that you go. And once you train yourself to do that, you will be able to sort through the messengers very quickly, to the point where there are certain ones that you want to listen to for whatever reason, whether they are talking about subject matter that you like, or their delivery is something that you can relate to, so that you're able to be stimulated by what they're putting out there. But just try to keep in mind that it's message over messenger always. And with that, I want to wish everybody a good night. Go ahead.
Thanks, Truth Bomb,
Yeah.
for keeping the chat under control, and thanks, White Hat Reporter, for I'm loving the flag in the background. Awesome.
Yeah. And he even put a sombrero on me there. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that.
It's funny. He's a funny guy. But anyway, yeah, I put a sombrero on me. So thank you, White Hat Reporter. Thank you, Truth Bomb. You are the bomb, the bombardier of truth, the patriot, a true patriot. We're glad you're back with us after taking a hiatus to actually enjoy life, which we all envy. But it's good to have you back, and thanks for spending the time with us. And with that, we'll call it another podcast. Paladin out.